Thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor to be back.
I'm so excited to have you back, my Gemini. Do you identify as a king? Is that your sovereignty of choice, your royalty position?
Sure. Gemini, queen, king, jester, trickster. I'll take it all. Yeah, I'll take it all.
High priestess.
I'll take it.
I feel like there's so many ways. Like, I love royalty and I love to bestow people with their crown. But in this, like, let's just call it in this post-gender world where all genders matter and all genders are possible. Like, what is even royalty, right? We're each our own sovereign. So I'd love to call people a king, queen, jester.
Yes.
But as a Gemini, you're flexible. So just like.
Right. As a Gemini, I'm like attached to words, but not really. So thank you for the coordination. Yeah. I like, it's cool, but it's fine. It doesn't matter to me. Words are symbols, twice removed from reality, said A Course in Miracles. So I'm fine.
Yes. Oh my God. Words are symbols, twice removed from reality.
because look at your Capricorn sun ass shaking their head like, oh, I know. Yes. I know. Because Capricorns, when I drop some teachings on A Course in Miracles, they're just like, they eat it up because it does have that voice of authority that Capricorns love. Okay.
I mean, if the Christ consciousness is your authority, right? It is ultimately the God within you, the Christ within you, right? And like, and and the Christ consciousness is just your best, right? It's never, it's just, you can get better every day, but if you deliver your best every day, that's your Christ consciousness.
100%. And then whatever you're not delivering, I mean, as long as it's accounted for and apologized for and amended for, really stops being your reality.
Yeah. And that's
Look at us 30 seconds in, Christ consciousness. Go ahead.
And releasing all the guilt and shame and all of these, like, you know, clouds of, you know, the colonizer in your mind, right? All of these ideas that you have to be perfect, which is just controlling your image with other people.
That's it. So just amend it, own it, and you'll be that much closer to your Christ consciousness, says Bevin. I'm down with that.
I'm in a good mood today, so this is.
I could tell. I love it, and I'm so glad. I'm in the middle of a thunderstorm, so in case you speak and the thunder just goes wild, like, I hope that's what happens.
Oh, I'm excited for it to punctuate. Yeah. Tell me when the thunder strikes and when it's really punctuated something important.
Yes, and I'll be like, oh, this cat, I can't. Remind me his name one more time.
Biscuit Reynolds.
Biscuit, that's right. That's right. And would you say very much attached to you and like wants to be held and loved and the whole thing?
He's always down to snuggle. But he is very into his autonomy. So I ask him frequently, do you want autonomy or connection? And his answer is both, because right now he's biting me. He crawled onto my lap.
It bites you.
Yes, exactly.
Cats are so funny for this reason. I love it. Yep.
I really respect cats.
I'm learning. I used to be, I still am allergic, but a friend of mine has them and I've been staying with him, and like the cats and I are like kind of warming up to each other. It's nice.
Cats don't work with cops.
No.
Just say that. You've never seen a cat work with a cop. Dogs too, but like, you know, it's my favorite thing about being a lifetime cat person. I just learned that recently.
Cats don't work with cops. Oh my God, I know several people that I can't wait to text that to, so they could be like, exactly. Now I'm so glad I'm a cat lover. Cats don't work with cops. Mm-hmm. Bevin, you are a fucking piece of work. And that's like the highest honor I can give to somebody. Like when someone is just absolutely a pistol and a piece of work and something else, that's what you are. I love it. I'm on my A game with you, honey.
I'm glad to get your A game. I would gladly receive your D game, though. I'll say that, Colin. Okay. Oh, wait. Okay. Maybe not like that. Your F game does that.
I knew what you meant.
I'm unconditionally loving, but instead I'm making dirty jokes by accident.
By accident, I know. And us two queers should not have laughed at that. And we did. I'll take your D game. Will you?
I was trying to be unconditionally loving. Here
I know. And then we got a little perverted, and that's funny. That's funny. Okay.
Good. Let's embrace all of the levels of humor that we can. Let's make a really highfalutin joke before the end of this too. Like
100%. I'll think of one. Oh, I got one. How do you make holy water?
I don't know.
You boil the hell out of it. Isn't that so good?
Oh my God.
God.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to use that joke. What a great world we live in, where we can just create mirth with our words. See, words are twice removed from reality. Is that what you said? But like,
says A Course in Miracles.
Of
Yeah.
Course in Miracles. But then you can use words to make jokes like that because of the meaning they have.
And it's so funny. I'm so glad you enjoyed that, because it's like, it's definitely a dad wise guy joke. So I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go, but thankfully I think it landed like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah,
so.
I will say I think dad jokes are my love language. Like,
oh, okay.
When I turned 40, I was like, I am done taking life too seriously. I need to laugh more. And so dad jokes are a great way to laugh.
You know, isn't it interesting that we realize that joke later on in life? Like, what is it about earlier? I didn't want to say early because what is time, but like, why is that the lesson people tend to arrive at a certain age? Do you know why?
I don't. And the same thing is, well, let's just.
Do you see that? I don't want to project,
no,
but
I do see it. And it was something I learned from I learned it from a Real Housewife. Let's be honest. She made that declaration. I was like, stolen. It's mine too. I was 40 and I was like, yes, I am tired of taking things too seriously. I do need to laugh more.
100%.
And like, but then also there's something I've noticed too, is that people don't recognize how important their relationships are until towards the end. Like, if you can just Google the top 5 lessons of the dying. This woman wrote this brilliant book.
Yes.
And it's all real basic shit that like, probably we should eat the ice cream, right? Like, we probably should just love our lives and love the people around us and have more grace and more love. And right, like, I saw my grandmother, who was like this intense Capricorn businesswoman, in her latter year, like, just her relationships were the most important thing to her. It wasn't her career. Right. And as everything started stripping away from her consciousness, it was just her relationships. That was all that mattered. And it's like, I couldn't not take that lesson so that I could have a better second half of my life,
Bevin, and you know what's beautiful? Isn't that the first lesson we get to too?
Yes.
It's the first one.
Right. And we fall in love with these people who aren't great caretakers or whatever, don't take care of our emotional needs. And then we make it mean a story. And then like, it's off and running with putting up walls with people.
Here, and then at the end, we're all just dismantling them anyway.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. That's the meaning of life from a Gemini Capricorn. We hope you enjoyed this episode. That's all you need to know. No, I completely agree. And that's when I'm connecting to a lot of people just sort of saying, I just want to laugh more. And that's what I think Gemini energy, Mercury's still in Gemini, the North Node is in Gemini. I actually think that's what we're all trying to inhabit more of, because I think of Gemini energy as the trickster archetype in astrology. The zodiac sign that basically tells people, if you take yourself too seriously because you are so concerned what other people are thinking, you're actually not capable of critical intelligence. And guess what? Joke's on you. Nobody likes you. So lighten the fuck up. Don't take yourself too seriously. And from that place of receptivity, agility, and adaptability, can you actually get into serious problem solving? Can you get into really deep and empathetic conversations? Because you're not so hypervigilant. You can't be laughing and hypervigilant at the same time.
Yeah.
And yeah, don't get me started, because I'm obsessed with this idea. I'm obsessed with it.
Oh my God, let's talk about it. Okay, Gemini sun, Leo rising, Capricorn moon.
Yes, ma'am.
What is your Venus in?
Gemini, baby.
Oh, a Gemini Venus too.
Oh yeah.
So okay, let's talk about values. I would love to hear from you. What are your values, and are they in priority order?
Well, wait. So what's your literature on values? Because I know that this was something, and I wanted to see, it's because this keeps coming up. So I'm wondering, like, how do you define the value? Where did you learn about values? And we'll start with those 2 questions. How do you define a value? Where did you learn about it?
I have learned about values on the streets.
Okay.
which I mean from my friends, like talking to people who have like strong value systems, who talk to me about what they value. I think values are kind of like the how that we live our lives. very few people truly live through their values. I just want to say that. But like,
I know.
when you
True.
define what's important to you, like how you live your life, like these are the things, these are my big rocks, right? Like when you think about the jar of life, you only have a few big rocks you can fit in, and you got to put them in first. And then everything else is like then you got smaller pebbles, right? And then you get gravel, and then you get some sand in there, and then you can put water in there. Water is spending time on Instagram. I'm just going to say that. All of your scrolling, that should be your water.
The water.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So, but it becomes people's big rocks because that's what they default to, because they're not focused on. I found that once I got real clear about my values and real clear about like how I wanted to live through them, and I keep tweaking the priority and like and I keep adding new things, but like for me, editing is the hardest part. So like I add things that like
yes. I love that. So you define the value as the rock at the bottom of the jar.
Yeah,
the big rock at the bottom of the jar.
The big things that are important that kind of make up the way you want to live your life, right? And I find like I'm much more aligned with people if we are connected about our values, you know, rather than making assumptions about people's values based on identity or lifestyle, which I used to conflate the two, and I didn't understand the distinction. But it's enabled me to make better connections with people when I can focus on common values rather than all the other junk.
All the other junk. That's beautiful. I have studied values pretty extensively since Brene Brown's work, Dare to Lead, came out in 2018. And the way that she defines value is an idea or a conviction that we hold most important above all else. And then she brought in some other literature on values. And what really shocked me was that according to the researchers on clarity values for cognitive behavioral therapy, they said you actually ought not to choose more than 2.
Wow.
Because that's the whole function of the value, right? Is to choose a minimal amount of ideas and convictions that we can put into practice with the limited amount of energy and attention we had. And so, and then the sentence after that was like, because let's be clear, if we have more than 2 values, we don't even have priorities.
Oh.
I was like, oh shit, you know? And I saw that as a very fixed function in astrology, right? Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. And I was like, wow, I can almost see that. And so at first I chose my values in 2018 as spirituality and connection, right? Above all else, I take a stand for these 2 things. What is the most spiritual path and what is the most connected path? And then I read the work of Barry Johnson, who started the Polarity Institute. I think he started the institute in the 1990s. I read his book in 2020, and it's all about how the polarity is the closest symbol and access point we have to the ongoing search for truth. And he said, if you are in the work of clarity values and putting them into practice in the personal, relational, professional landscape, you should actually choose values that are in polarity with each other. Wow. So then I chose connection and spirituality, because what happened is that because my values for spirituality and connection were a little bit more on the other side, I did start to feel kind of lost in the sauce. And well, what about what I want? And what about speaking up for myself? And what about my own autonomy? What about my own space, you know? And when I started to reintroduce the value of autonomy, which means I'll take a stand for, I just want to go in my car and drive for a few hours without being overly committed to a calendar. I just want to be left alone for a little while. Then my life has actually unfolded really beautifully. And I unapologetically will tell people, well, because autonomy is my value, let me tell you why the answer is no. And because connection and relationships are my value, my other value, let me tell you why the answer is yes. You know, and I don't mind holding a contradiction and actually leveraging that energy as just the energy of the universe, not a problem that needs to be solved.
Wow. Oh my God, that's so interesting. I love that you have a pedagogy about your values, like a lineage that you learn them from. Because I would say, like, I think that values are definitely like more than 2, because they're the thing.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Because I think in a world of infinite choices, narrowing it down to like 10, you know, is still a big deal.
Yeah.
And it does give you, I mean, and I like priority order because it helps me like kind of sort things. And it's also really helping me with my morning routine, because like one of my
great.
shared that, like, he's like, I hit 4 of my 5 top values first thing in the morning. And like that, right? And when you can center your day around those things that you really find most important, like it sets you up for success, I think, and to
Yeah.
stay in the lanes of the things that are the most important to you, that get lost if you don't prioritize.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you mentioned that, because the pedagogy of values that I just mentioned really had a lot to do with like organizational culture, and how to put these values into practice in schools, in corporations and businesses. And one of the most interesting key findings was that when values in these spaces were too wide, they didn't actually know what choice to go in. So like, for certain schools, they'll have like, this middle school's values are these 9 words. And then if you're thinking about it, if an important decision needs to be made for a communication strategy, for an issue on accountability, for an issue on God only knows what, do all of those 9 words help direct in the right choice, or do like 2 or 3?
Yeah.
So, it can be both, right? We could have more than 2 personally. For the professional spaces, they're like, yeah, you basically just need 2.
Wow, that's actually, I'm so grateful we're having this conversation, because right now I'm like doing this big leadership project on the land that I work at, or
great.
that I live at. I'm making them. They asked me to help because of my legal background, and I said yes, but we're going to do it in this way, and we're going to start by getting a big picture and figure out what our vision, values, and concerns are as a group.
Love it.
So it's helping me actually understand, okay, let's really narrow down the values to a couple so that we can actually use them organizationally.
Yeah, because again, when you're asking people why they're not feeling secure or trustworthy in major organizations and with other leaders, one of the most common answers was, we're too scattered and indecisive in our decision making and our values, and I don't know what's a priority.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they make the recommendation, the literature on values makes the recommendation to narrow it down to 2, so that, the people can understand that. And then when you're working with teams and organizations, right, like you could understand why, say, Bevin is, because integrity is your value and so is accountability, you'll be the first one to bring up, are we going to discuss the fact that we got this really critical review or feedback and we need to address it with others? And people who are maybe vision and education are like, no, we're on to the next one. And you're like, no, we're not. Because accountability, you know what I mean? And like, that's what's so interesting is like, and this is kind of something that I'm also teasing apart. So I'm wondering if this is something you've observed or something you've read in the research on values too. But I think a lot of people confuse, myself included, like value with strength.
Oh.
And I like a strengths-based assessment. And I kind of now really choose the values that I want to have access to when my critical thinking goes offline. Because I've been very apt to hide in plain sight and just make it about other people and dancing codependentary because I'm not thinking of autonomy. And I've also been very apt to get really emotionally reactive and burn bridges and be like, fuck this, fuck that, fuck you, to people who I claim to love. So then what about connection? So I look at those 2 values as like the lighthouses towards righteous living. They're not immediately my strengths, but they are guiding me to make the right behavior according to my values in moments of, prolonged uncertainty, anticipatory conflict, or emotional activation, rejection, abandonment, risk.
Oh my God, yes. It's interesting because I would not say that I think that values are strengths. I think that values are, I still stand by it. Like, I think it's the things you want to live through.
Yeah.
But like, I'll say my first value is my relationship with God.
Yes,
mostly because it's like an active thing, right? Like if I'm not in relationship with God, then I'm not in relationship with myself. I can't be in relationship with anybody else. And like the whole thing, like when I surrendered my life to God a few years ago, I like recognized like I'm not in control of this stuff and I'm suffering. So like, let me just focus on this relationship first, which helps a lot, everything else. And right. And then my second, autonomy is not even, or not autonomy, but accountability, even though it's important to me as like a personal trait, isn't even in my list of values.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But it supports my third value. So my second value is self-care and self-love, which I find are like interrelated, kind of the same thing, kind of not the same thing. And that supports my relationship with God, and it supports everything else I want to do. Because if I'm not vibing at my best and my highest, then like I'm trash to my friends and family, which are my third value, right? Like I really prioritize relationships. And even as like people are like, oh, Bevin, you're so busy. I'm like, I'm highly prioritized and I always make time to connect with my friends. I might not have time on a given day, but like that, it's a high priority for me. I send a lot of messages to connect with the people that I love. And like,
And was that something you always knew how to do, or did you grow into that?
Oh, I'm still growing into it. I still like, I was just telling you this before we started recording about how I'm really working through rejection and working on the story that I tell myself when people, you know, aren't available to talk to me, which has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and if it does, oh, well, if they need to talk to me about something, here's the invitation. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so it was recognizing how much my grandmother prioritized her career over her relationships and prioritized, I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into analyzing my grandmother, but she basically
another Capricorn.
Another Capricorn. She did the best she could, right? Like,
Yeah.
but she truly loved her family and her like status and like her aesthetic, like that all got placed above the relationships that she cherished. And so I wanted to make sure that like as I'm setting up the life I want to live, like that's front and center for me. So it's like it just reminds me, right? Like being in these priority orders, right? And then fun is so important to me. That was a recent addition. I learned it. Jerry Garcia said this funny thing to the record label early in being the Grateful Dead. He would always say, if the record label wanted them to do something, he'd say, is it going to be fun? Because that was like a priority value for him. And like kind of, and I think fun is, again, like disarming people. It allows people to be more receptive to the important ideas that like I think are out there, right? Like, and that's like, as a performer, a showgirl, I'm like, I want to give people a fun time so that then my next thing is impact, because it really matters to me to change the world. So my next value is impact. But the fun kind of sets the stage for the impact. And then after that to me is freedom, which like, I really love feeling free. I really like being free in my mind and body. I like decolonizing my mind, right? Like, and that all kind of like trickles down to like, then, and also I like freedom, both like personal liberty, but also freedom for other people and like social justice.
100%.
Sort of like everyone deserves freedom.
Yes.
And that's why like impact is more important to me than even my personal freedom, right? Like, because it matters to me that I leverage some of my personal freedom to help the world. It's really, I mean, this is how I was living it out before I was even articulating it when I was a lawyer in New York and I was working like 10 hours a week. But I spent like 90 hours a week doing like my art and activism because it mattered to me to help other people get free. And right. And like, and then after that is experiences, because experiences really matter to me. Before luxuries, and luxuries is the last thing. But I think living a luxe and comfy life is something we all deserve.
Oh, without a doubt. And I also love that inherent within your analysis is like ways to put values into a method, a system, a technique. Like, I love that. It's like, this is how I do what I do in service to the operation at hand. And this is why I value it. And this is how one leads off to the other. And I also like how, the first three are like relationship with the divine, relationship to self, and relationship to others, because like the divine is what is the foundation for the best self-love and relational love too, I think. So that was beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome, of course.
I'm curious for you, what was your like method of deciding what your values were? Like, like how do you like sift through all it? Because I think folks out there, like whether you go the Colin method of just a couple, or if you go my method of like really nail down a list and organize it and edit it and whatever, and you can combine some together, because some of those like it took a while for me to distill.
Yeah. Well, and your Venus is in Scorpio, so hence the wide, intimate depths. Well, my Venus is in Gemini, right? So I just kind of reviewed my life and I said, okay, what's missing? What's missing is space. What's missing is alone time. What's missing is the self-acceptance and the foundation to say, thank you so much for inviting me. I want you to keep inviting me, but I don't want you to get confused with my free time for social time. And I would really like to use my free time to just kind of like be alone. And so, I just kind of reviewed the outcomes and results of my life. And I said, this is where I need improvement. And I would like to make autonomy my value, bring it all the way in. And then it's just a matter of like putting it into practice as best as I can in the moments of complex decision-making, a boundary, a level of emotional disclosure is like, why am I feeling this way? What's happening? And how do I put my values into practice? How do I put my beliefs into action? And that's how it's worked for me so far. So we'll see how it goes.
I love that autonomy is one of your values because
Totally.
you weren't even alone in the womb. When
No,
the rest of us were just chilling by ourselves.
I
You were
was-
a twin.
Bevin, I'm so glad you fucking thought about that because I'm like, and I was a twin, so I had a womb mate. Like I've never been alone, you know. And don't get me wrong, like I love being around other people. You know, it fills me up. I get so much energy in the exchange of others. I live in a city. You know, I'm a Gemini. I love, and honestly, people are my cathedral. I love being around others always. And there are moments when I'm like, you know what? I just really need to reset, get my head on straight, listen to my music, because I think over the last 8 months, I'm sure other people would see this too throughout lockdown, is that overcommitment and compliant to a calendar, to work, to a schedule, zaps a lot of the fun and the play and the creativity out of things because you're just running from commitment to commitment to commitment to commitment.
Yeah.
And that's great if you are in, you know, a customer service business or you want to be true to your word and integrity and all that. And also, like, you can almost get a little like, well, what about my time? What about me? What about the space I need to regenerate? And I'm trying to prioritize that. That's why I'm going to Los Angeles for 2 months and just like doing whatever I want within reason and trying not to blow, you know, a significant amount of money that I don't have.
Right. I mean,
You
I
know?
think I do know. And I know that like, I'm really grateful I've read this. This is like a success leadership book I read, but like, you need 3 hours of alone time. If you're going to be in a leadership position, especially, you need 3 hours of alone time for every 1 hour with people, because that's where like your study comes. Because if you spend that time studying and like connecting and like learning new things, then those good thoughts come up in public. You're connecting better dots. Like, I found like my daily forest wax, like I'm connecting some major dots, and I need a lot more rest because I'm learning more. I'm like, I feel like I'm in this academic study part of my life for the last couple of years. Your brain needs
whoa. So can you say more about that? Because you know, I do astrology readings sometimes 2 a day.
Okay.
They're an hour each. And I do not give myself 6 hours of downtime.
Right.
After those 2 readings. Holy shit. I don't know if you can see all the church bells going off.
Oh,
wow. So where did you get, where did that come from?
John Maxwell did it in I don't even remember the book it came from, but I heard it in he said it in a talk. But John Maxwell's like a very high level leadership guy. He's like a leadership teacher. He's written like 100 books.
Wow.
But it's like, it's true. Like most CEOs read like 4 to 5 books a month. Dr. Brene Brown talked about this on one of her podcasts, that most CEOs are reading like 4. I knew this about that, but like 4 to 5 books. And so she like dove into, I need to be reading more and I need to be studying more, because like you are a better producer of you if you're spending that time learning so that you can lead the ship rather than like, you know, spending all your time doing all of that. It's interesting. So you see 2 clients a day. Is that your like boundary? How many a week?
2, 4, 6, about 10, because I'll work Monday through Friday. And then in between those, Bevin, you know, I'll have a ton of meetings and sessions and yeah. So basically that idea that John Maxwell put forward is not operationalized, was not, I should say, for the last 8 months.
Yeah.
And I'm working from home, living with my grandma, who I love, and we spend a lot of time together, you know, so it's, go ahead. Yeah.
Working with home, as you put it, Esther Perel. Because I mean, home has its own little pop-up demands, and you got to figure out how to manage that.
Yes. And you know what's been great is that like I haven't even needed to outline that to people who I love and care about. They just kind of go, we get it. And I'm like, thank God. Because I would go into, and there's people who I haven't seen, and there's others who, you know, but what about the vaccine? And like, it's just been this overwhelming rush of like, oh, I feel like I'm not showing up for others that I care about. But like, I did not put systems in place in my work to give myself this alone time because I didn't even know about it. And that's the learning curve, you know? So thank you so much for being like, I'll tell you why, 3 hours for every 1 hour. I'm like, oh my God, that's so true.
Because you got to think about it. You're not only healing the people that you're, because I think of astrology readings and all of that as healings, right? It's all healing. We're all reflecting to each other, right? But like you're doing the one-on-one sessions, but then and every podcast you do, you're doing like one-on, hopefully thousands of people, right? Like let's hope this podcast reaches thousands of people and they can heal and learn their values, right? And like so that's like healing work you're doing with an audience. And like every time you're investing time into one of your exceptionally great Instagram videos, right? Which I just think you're a thought leader, Colin. You have so much to give, but you have to spend that retreat time. And I love that, like, you're thinking about, I'll say this, I only offer 3 Reiki sessions, one-on-one Reiki sessions a week. And I'm not booked up. So like, I really just have one client that I see every week. And I actually feel really rejuvenated working with her. So I think it's
great.
A gift from the goddess. Yes. But like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just thinking, cause like I put so much energy into Fact at Dance Party and I need to be so very on for that kind of stuff that like, it's client work can be draining. It can be reviving. It kind of depends on who you are and how you work. But when you're doing mysticism on some level, you got to have that like centering time. And I know you're such a junkie for words, my Capricorn moon, highly educated friend.
No, and like I'm a junkie for the methods because, and you know what? I think I almost felt like I had a precious problem, right? Like, oh, I've been around people all day. It's so hard. I shouldn't be feeling this way, you know, but it's like, because then I think about, well, what are educators doing, you know, who are literally around children all day long or students all day long, you know, like, so my problems put in perspective really aren't a problem at all. But my days are very long and I love them very much. And I just need to be careful about preserving those 3 hours of connecting the dots because you're absolutely right. I haven't had a ton of that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, Capricorn. Hit me with the ratio. 3 to 1, baby. 3 to 1.
It's wild, but it's working. I mean, it's been working really well for me. I'll say this. My like mental health is at an all-time best. Spiritual alignment is at an all-time best.
Wow.
Right. And so like, and I think part of it is because I live by myself. I'm close enough to my mom that I can have these spontaneous connection moments, but I'm not in the same house. So it's not constantly talking. Right. And like that forest time is alone. I do see like sometime when I have a family, having the forest time be with a family, but like also still like, you know, when you're a parent, you need a lot of alone time and it's kind of hard to come by sometimes, but kids actually need way more autonomous play than we give them.
Ooh, okay. Because I was just gonna say, you know, what if someone's listening who says, like, Colin and Bevin, I'm with you, but I'm a parent, I'm a partner, I live with these people. What kind of recommendations or suggestions would you share with them? Not to put you on the spot.
You're such a good like interviewee because you're always turning back into the interviewer, Capricorn moon. I see you.
Listen, I know because I want to learn from you because I'm like, oh damn, if you could tell me this about 3 to 1, what do you got to say to family systems?
I'll say this. I think our family systems are massively broken because we are a tribal species. Humans are tribal by nature. Our bodies think that we are still in the 1700s. They think that we still have extended family networks that can take the kids because kids just want to go be cavemen together. They want to go yell and scream and play with stuff like, and I can't solve the problem. I was an only child raised by a single mom. I spent a lot of time alone as a kid because of necessity and no money for babysitters. I was 6 years old, a latchkey kid. Like, so, you know, not everyone's going to have a little baby Capricorn who's taking care of themselves and has a lot of trauma to undo, right? Like, I mean, I can't solve it for you, but I can say, zoom out, look at your life. Like my mom chose autonomy over being near the extended family, which I think would have, I can't reverse engineer everything, but I'm just saying like you can make lifestyle changes. You can move somewhere that is easier for you to get childcare options. You can, I mean, and you know, it's not one size fits all. You got to figure out what works for you. You could meditate with your kids in the room because being able to meditate while there's chaos is actually a superpower and something you can really, if you can even drop into 30 seconds of meditation, like making sure like your toddler's not going to kill themselves, like in a safe environment. Jordan Page calls it baby jail. She has this like trampoline with a zipper and she puts the babies in there and like, right.
Baby jail.
Baby jail. She's a mom of 8. She has 5 businesses. She figures it out. Right. Like, so like there's so many options that I think we live in a hyper Pinterest society that gives you ideas of what parenting is supposed to look like. When in fact, parenting is just the best you can give your kids today and the best you can give yourself today.
Bevin, I'm gonna need wow. I hope people are getting parenting is the best you can give to your kids today and the best you can give to yourself today. That is a fucking word, honey. A sermon by Bevin. Wow.
I'm not a parent yet and I'm still afraid, but I'm gonna do it anyway, you know, like
Yeah. Yeah. My twin sister's doing it beautifully. I really got to give her all the credit in the world. But like you, like what you were saying, she made a really deliberate choice to raise her daughter next to my parents.
mm,
And there is, my family is a big Long Island communal family. We really do so much together, and we have within our family culture, God bless, like just a value of mass mutual reliance.
mm,
So like we're not meant to do any of this shit alone.
yeah.
And so, but I didn't even think about like, when I'm telling clients, like, well, have you given yourself an hour today? Like asking, is there someone that can watch your kids in the morning? Like, let's get in the habit of asking. Let's get in the habit of figuring out what services are available. Let's consider what sort of financial resources can help with that, because I know it's not cheap. But I love that you're like, let's get creative and problem solve, because it can be done. Because I know somebody who's got 8 kids and 5 businesses. So hello.
And she's so generous. She gives away all her tips and tricks on the internet. You know what I mean? Like,
Of course,
yeah,
because that's the way it's done. We're not meant to do this shit alone.
no.
Okay, wait. So let me ask you this. All right. So we're in a community of interreliant people. What role do you think the Capricorn would have in the community?
Oh, I love this because I love the zodiac as like a great representative of all of the different ways there are to be a people. Because human
Yes, yes,
diversity,
yes.
like if you just look at humans, human diversity is a mandate, right? Like it's
Mm,
just part of our makeup is we're all different. Each and every one of us
we
is
are.
unique, right?
Yeah.
And I think that I think about this a lot in terms of the failed American state, because I think the president is like just it's going to keep being a reality star until we change how the presidency works. Um, I mean, I just see it. Kim Kardashian is going to be our president. Like, if we don't figure out how to do this differently, and here's what I figured out during my forest walks and my connecting the dots. If we could get political parties that represent actual human difference, so 12 parties, a 12-party system, that would actually help people have enough connection to a specific, way, mode of thought, values, I don't know, like some sort of thing that helps people be less extreme and less radical and more
Mm,
diverse and create a
mm.
consensus government. Like I want to see a council of 12 as president, like holding that office, and then like have Angela Davis be in charge of it, right? Um
An
just
Aquarian.
to start.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
just to start. And again, we're in the age of Aquarius. We need Angela Davis.
Any questions? I didn't think so.
Right.
Yep.
So when I think about like the Capricorn in the communal living situation, it's what needs to be done, right? Like
Yeah.
it's the who needs to drive the engine, because Capricorns like can see that goal and go for it,
Totally.
right?
Totally. And they're decisive. I think what I appreciate about Capricorns is they make decisions.
Mm,
And I think that is a highly undervalued leadership strategy. And they also know when it's not time to make a decision.
yeah.
So that's what I would love to see Capricorns doing. And well, currently the House of Scorpio is winning with President Joseph Biden as the current president of the United States. So House of Scorpio followed by the House of Gemini. Hey. And I guess hopefully we could see some deep truth telling in this administration and really, really, really powerful Scorpio healing. Let's hope.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. Wow. Wow. I love the idea of like there's 12 political parties, each zodiac influenced.
Mhm.
Which one should we have for 4 years? Should it be Capricorn, Virgo, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Sag? What are we in the mood for, folks?
I don't even think it should be like choosing one for 4 years. I think it should just be choosing all and
Mm.
forcing consensus. Because if you can get 6 or if you can get 7 distinct parties to agree on something, you've got a majority, right? And like,
Ooh, okay.
right? Or like coming or forcing consensus on everything like the Quakers, right? Like
Do
there's
they?
ways to do it. This is just my starting idea for the Republic of the United States, by the people, for the people is the new name of the country.
Wow. And now when you say forced consensus, what does that look like?
It just means it's unity and harmony above all. So it means
Yeah.
that if you, I mean, this is my understanding of Quakerism, but like, or being Quaker. I don't know what they call it,
Yeah.
but like, is that basically everything is decided congregationally, like the whole congregation has to decide, and like, and if
That's
there's
beautiful.
consent, it doesn't go forward. So, and some co-ops do this too, right? Like,
Wow.
consensus or nothing, and majority
Wow.
rules gets really like, it that's the thing, is like, we have this three chamber government, right? My poli sci degree is so dusty, but like, we
No,
have
you're
like,
using it well. The
right,
executive, legislative, and judicial branch.
right, and they're supposed to be like that so that we protect more minority interests, but because we have so much money in politics, we don't have the ability for minority interests to even have a remote opportunity, other than like little symbolic things, like we'll give you Juneteenth, but we won't give you reparations. Like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of shit. Malcolm X said they'll just keep giving you symbols and they will not do anything.
Yeah.
And he was right, right? Like, it's gross. And if we got money out of politics, I think it would change everything, because then our politicians could be focused more on leadership instead of like connecting and sucking up to the lobbyists.
Wow. Okay, so you're also, no, let's go there. You're also reminding me really of actually, Bevin, the power of redeemed fixed energy, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. Malcolm X was a Taurus. And there is a capacity for fixed signs to be like, I don't buy it. It's not substantial. It lacks intention, and it has no sustainability whatsoever. So what are we doing to undo the errors of the past in the present to ensure it doesn't happen for our people? And a celebrated holiday where we have off and not really think about something is symbolic and vain at best. Yes. Yes. And we do have some fixed energy in the stars right now. We have Uranus in Taurus. Saturn is in Aquarius. Jupiter will re-enter Aquarius starting on July 27th. So we are kind of in that general direction, actually, of like, what's the method, what's the system? Because I was just talking to my family today about like what can happen when we lack the fixed intention. What happens when people are just moving for the sake of moving and just like, you know, quick, immediate responses, like taking an aspirin for a broken bone, but not resetting the bone.
Ooh.
You know, and that's like the cardinal signs can say, let's take the aspirin. You know, the fixed signs will say, okay, and let's also reset the bone.
Yeah.
And then the mutable signs are like, well, what about the cast? Because it's got to heal. And we have a lot of let's take the aspirin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
but anyway, don't get me started.
We live in this microwave culture too, where we like have this when nature like blooms, a lot of things in nature only bloom once a year, right? Like, so, and is the lilac tree not valuable when it's not producing its intoxicating scent, right? Like,
wait, so wait, no, I'm going through this trends actually in my astrology right now. So microwave culture is like everything at once.
It's like everything happens immediately. We like, when you are raised, I don't know, like, is this like, I wasn't raised like this, but I imagine like being raised with like a grandma making sauce, right? Like on a Sunday, and it's like this ritual, and it smells amazing, and like it's all day long, and then you get to dig into food that was brewing in a pot of delicious sauce, ribs, perhaps meatballs, right?
Yes.
All of the things, chicken cutlets. No, it's just, we started this conversation talking about Italian food before we started recording.
It's true. So Bevin is like letting her inner Long Island girl out.
I really am. I miss it. I miss the East Coast. I want to go to Duncan. I want to drive on the Turnpike, and I want to go down the shore.
All right, let me do it. Okay, go ahead.
I want to go to Wawa.
Come on.
I want a hoagie.
Right. I love the Pennsylvanians. They can have their weird accent. I'm in no place to talk. Okay.
So many weird accents, like really intense, regional, diverse accents within like a few blocks.
100%. And then I go there. I'm like, wow, they're talking so weird, huh? I can hear it through the window. That's nuts. I know. So let me not. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. But I love it. It makes me laugh. I love the linguistic diversity of the US. But
Yeah.
yeah, and you know what's come to think of it? That is what my family would do. Every Sunday when we all lived together, grandma would start making the sauce at like 9 a.m. And I would know because I slept over on Saturday and I woke up and I smell onions first thing in the morning, which typically is nice, you know.
Yeah.
And then she cooks it all day. We have it at 3. The family comes around. And yeah, you know, and I think what you're saying, Bevin, is it's like it's intentional, it's patient, it's cumulative. And you're right. I think we get a little too much at once. We don't give time, we don't give the embryonic phase enough value.
Yeah, and growing roots and stuff. And I'll say this as someone who has been working hard to release and be okay with like the process that my life is taking and how it's unfolding and how slow it feels. But like, I
Yeah.
also don't want a microwave result. I want to have all the nutrients in it because microwaves, I'll just say this, I'm an anti-microwave person who does it sometimes out of need, right?
Yeah.
But like mostly microwaves just zap all the nutrients out of your food. And if you could just heat it up in a pot, it takes maybe a few more minutes, but like, and more dishes. This is why I sometimes
Right.
but like, you know, it does preserve the nutrients that you work so hard, especially if you're someone who cooks from scratch and like you want like all that cabbage, right, to like nourish you instead of microwaving it and like losing it.
Bevin, you're really reading me right now because I'm going through a 12th house transit, and I just felt really called to like not do a whole lot of work. You know, haven't made a lot of content, no scheduling. My out of office email is up. Like I am taking a vacation because I'm actually moving across the country. I'm in New York now, going to LA like next Monday. Shipped out the car, going to be there for 2 months. Cannot wait. Okay. But I haven't really been doing anything. And every once in a while, you know, my inner voice will be like, oh, but just work real fast and make a video because, you know, people forget about you. And it's like, no, let me just have a moment to gather myself. Let the nutrients bake. I don't want to give anybody a microwave result. No, ma'am. I don't want to do it. So thank you for that quick little read. You've been reading me since the moment this started.
I love you.
I love you. You have your methods, your systems, your educations. I appreciate that so much. I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you. And I actually really appreciate hearing that like you're intentionally I've been doing the same thing actually. I've really released a lot of my like I have my expectations of myself because I run my own business, right? So I have the things I do that my business needs me to do. But like I also have been giving myself a lot of space to like not, and you know, not I haven't had a ton of conversations with friends and things like that lately because I've been giving myself a lot of space and like right. And to just be a lot of what we need right now is I think more people to just be and when you're comfortable with yourself and you like who you're alone with, you can just be. And if you're just being and pain is coming up, you need to be with your pain. Your pain wants it's just your inner child that needs to be loved and hugged.
Loved and hugged. Any questions?
Yeah.
No, I know. And a part of me, I think my inner child really prided himself on productivity being needless and just because I can do it, I shall, you know. And now I'm just like really giving myself the time and space. And it's certainly, and I planned this in advance, Bevin, because astrologically, Cancer rule transits. And the first half of Leo are my 12th house season, right? So it's like, relax, move slowly, because all the energy of the stars are in the place where they don't really give you a ton of energy. So use this as sabbatical, as rest. And I planned it and I've done it and I've never felt better, but a part of me is still being like, oh my God, should I work? And it's like, no, I'm going to take off for the first time in 2 weeks in 4 years. Yeah. I'm going to do it.
So are you going to LA and like not working?
I'm going to go to LA and work as in I'm going to do 4 readings a week, give myself off on Friday, right? And then I would actually like to spend the rest of the day just kind of like what you recommended, you know, be in dot connecting. I want to hire my friend to help me with my website. I'd like to just kind of do a whole review, restart, refresh. And I want to go out there for 2 months because I get so much inspiration and external stimulation because I'm in a new place. You know, I think that so many people that I've spoken to are like looking for demarcation, delineation, and differentiation because we've lived the last, theoretically, you know, the last 8.5 months, or excuse me, the last year and a half, really, same house, same room, same table, same chair, same monitor. The world is passing. We're sitting still. Things are bleeding together. We're overwhelmed. We don't know our ass from our elbow. And you know, those are for people who have to work from home. For the essential workers, they've been in their own monotony and routine, not even a minute to reconnect with the outside world. So everybody just needs to connect with the Eros force, the differentiation force. And it amazes me that as soon as I can go to Southern California or Los Angeles, I have all of that stimulation that I can't wait to apply to the work. And that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Thanks. I hope it goes well. I know it will though. I'm so stoked. I'm so stoked.
I'm stoked for you.
Thank you.
And also it is nice to like everyone. I've actually, I know a ton of people who moved during the pandemic. Maybe moved a couple times. And a few times actually, a couple of my friends like, and it's been interesting because like I think everyone's just having a different kind of pandemic experience. And like for me, as like a little stressed out Capricorn who's really high in ethics, Virgo rising too, I think is like service and like humanity, right?
Yeah.
And so I was really stressed about like I can potentially travel and carry with me something in me, even if because I'm vaccinated, like even if like I don't go to the hospital because I'm got COVID, like and that's something that's always bugged me about it. I don't want to be in a chain of infection that kills somebody's grandma. Like that feels important. That even if I'm not like holding a gun over someone's 4-year-old, because 4-year-olds can't get vaccinated either. But like, I don't want to be that, you know what I mean? Like, it's like that to me really mattered. And so I had my heart community, the Glowing Goddess Getaway, like that they're doing a COVID safe, a Northern California getaway in the middle to late August. And I was like, okay, I will call that the end of my pandemic or the end of my quarantine.
Wow.
And I'm still super cautious and like super, you know, like people are running around maskless all over the place. And it's just not me right now. And
and that's totally respectable.
It gave me a lot of ease to like to call it like I still have another month and a half to go before I end my first quarantine, right? Like I'm probably still gonna live quarantine until the pandemic's over, but like it, you know what I mean? Like just having that like as a moment. So I like that that's what kind of you set up with your LA. So why only 2 months? Are you gonna go back to Long Island?
The Long Islands. Well, no, and I like that you're really being so intentional and deliberate about this. Again, like I think that's what we all need to be doing is like making decisions that are right for us in alignment with our values and what we take a stand for. And for you, it's August, and that's amazing. Well, because it just felt right. It's something about the summer felt appropriate. And I actually really love the East Coast in the fall. So, you know, I definitely want to make my way back here in probably like late September, and then stay until just after the holidays, the winter holidays. And then January could be, you know, a whole new thing. I would love to, you know, if the borders are open, I would love to maybe go to specific countries for a month at a time. And just try because this has always been my dream, Bevin, of like residencies and going from place to place to place, and kind of being a traveler and a wanderer. That's always been my joy. And so that's what I would like to do. And I'm starting in LA for the first 2 months.
Oh, I love that so much. I have to say, it's a similar dream for me to be a digital nomad with like a home base somewhere. And so like this, it's so funny because I always thought LA was going to be my home base. But now it's like it's here. It's like with near my mom, like it's small, like it's my place, like how I live is super inexpensive. And so like easy to maintain on the road. I just need a way to bring my cat with me.
I'm sure you will find a way. I don't doubt that for a second. So when do you think you'll be staying in Oregon for a little bit longer, or until August rather, or you think you'll...
So I'm not in Oregon. I'm in Washington.
Washington. I'm so sorry.
Just think of me at the North Pole. Like I'm Santa Claus. That's how I like people to see me. I'm very close to Canada. They won't let me in, but although I think now you can go if you have a purpose. You have to be vaccinated. So
okay.
I was like, maybe I can declare to the customs people my purpose is to buy decent maple syrup.
Right. Is that okay with you?
Exactly.
Right. I'll do it with you.
Right. I've read about this amazing road trip on Vancouver Island, which is like 45 minutes away is the ferry to Vancouver Island. And like, there's an amazing road trip that goes up to some like maple farm. I don't know. They don't call them farms.
Beautiful.
Anyway, it's what I want.
Love that for you.
Anyway, so I'm up in Washington, and I think, I don't know. I have like, I'm really allowing myself the not knowing of how this will work. I know that I can drive at a minimum. I can leave like on Tuesday and get there by Thursday for my retreat, right? Like, so, you know, if I leave the cat with a sitter for a few days while I go drive to Northern California and come back, I can do that. My joy would be to hit the road with him in like a vehicle that we can plug in places so I can have air conditioning for the cat. While I like,
God, wait.
Right?
I love this for you.
And a little toilet and a bed like that. I don't need much. I need a space for my clothes, right? And like, then to be able to roam and go see all my people, because I just have people all over this great land that I want to like hug and you know, so, but I don't know how that happens, and I'm just I'm letting things unfold, knowing what my highest joy is. But I'm a digital nomad now. Like, I actually personally set up my life so everything is online. So as long as I have Wi-Fi, I can do all the things I need to do, and I've done a good job of chunking when I'm obligated to be on.
And what an opportunity. You know, what an amazing invitation to just be in demarcation, differentiation, exploration, discovery. I think that's what people are so hungry for, because we've been on such lockdown and such fear of such contempt and polarization and just really, really, really tough social health and psychological landscapes. And I think people are desperate for joy, discovery, play, adventure, story, intimacy, levity, all those things. I think people are ready to reconnect to that. So I hope you get there fast. And
people are terrified of uncertainty.
I know.
I'll say that as someone who has been terrified of uncertainty. And I like, if I can go in this immediate moment and like know that that's all there is, right? The past is written and it's done, and the future is still unwritten and possible. So many things are possible. Good things are possible. Worry is only thinking of the bad things that are possible, but good things are just as possible as the worry.
Totally.
Right. And like, if we can get into this space where like, you're just in the present moment. I am here. I am safe. I touch my body. I am here. I am safe. And like, get into your 5 senses. This is something I learned from recovery, but like, just like, what can I smell? What can I taste? What can I hear? What can I see? What can I touch? And like, be present in your 3D, even though we know there's many more Ds than that.
So many Ds.
But like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're just present, like, here I am, I can see the trees, I can see my beloved friend Colin, I can see my cat, like, right? It's just, it's how to be in the uncertainty without letting your need to control the future and control other people's perception of you take the lead.
Yeah. And I also think what it allows you to do, that was beautifully said about like grounding into the present. I think it allows you to feel safe to take risk. And I think that when we're talking about uncertainty and we're talking about, you know, innovation and trust, I think that what we're not saying is that people have a serious risk averse issue and they're confused on what comes first. Is it risk or is it trust? You know, do I trust myself to take the risk to handle the uncertainty, or do I take the risk first to handle the uncertainty and thus I develop trust? You know, and that's actually a body of literature in clinical psychology and relational psychodynamics, is like, what comes first? Is it risk or is it trust? And of course, scholars are just as gridlocked about it. But I think what's beautiful is if we apply a little bit of a both end analysis of like, okay, I'm nervous about uncertainty, so let me take the risk to even connect to my body, discern my surroundings. And once I feel secure and safe within my interpretation and faculties of the lived experience, can I begin to take a series of calculated micro risks? Because I think that's what it is too. I think people are just, because and it makes sense. I mean, the last year and a half, what did everybody tell us? That like a risky interaction could lead to a spontaneous infection. So don't take those risks, you know, and I get it. And that was smart advice. And I think we need to keep applying that where appropriate. And also we need to try our best to cultivate our tolerance and resilience with risk-taking so that we can navigate uncertainty with not only self-trust, but relational trust too.
Yes, absolutely. The whole part of relational trust is just like taking your heart. Everything ends in heartbreak. Everyone's a heartbreaker. We talked about this in the last time we talked on our podcast. Colin, I want to talk about your mustache.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. I want to honor your time. My mustache. Where should we start?
Okay. So first of all, I have no producers, so my time can be whatever it is. But
okay, I have no producers. This is all me.
It's all me. There's no white guy making decisions about my
right. Better not be. Not in Bevin's world.
Not in Bevin's world. I mean, you know, it's gone this long. I haven't found a producer yet, so here we are.
Here we are.
Okay, so Colin, last time we talked, which I just love this. Last time we talked was right before the full moon in Cancer, and now we're talking right before the new moon in Cancer. I was like originally naming this for like before the full moon in Capricorn, but I think it's perfect. I think we're really
you're right.
creating family with one another. We're really like, because Cancer season is all family.
That's it. And I feel right at home with Capricorns because I'm a Capricorn moon. So hello. Yes.
And you know what? I think honestly, like your moon sign has way more to do sometimes with your personality than sun. Because like there's so much I used to blame on being a Capricorn, which I'm like, no, that was my Scorpio moon. Like being able to cut people off and be icy cold, that's Scorpio shit. I thought that was Capricorn. That's fucking Scorpio shit.
You're dead to me. You're dead to me. You and everyone who's associated with you, out of my life, be gone. That's true. It's true.
Oh. But, okay, so but also as an earth sign, change, an aesthetic change, especially for me, is like it's jarring, but not in a bad way, because it's always about my friend self-expressing. So but like you didn't have a mustache, and then like I think your mustache had just started growing in, and then it became a mustache, and then you've done so much facial hair over the last 6 months, and now once more you are bald-faced. Tell me about that. Is this Gemini stuff? Is this just playing? Is this all the things?
It's Gemini playing stuff. It is just like, you know what? I want variety, demarcation, differentiation. That's what it was. I've had a mustache for a while. I'm ready to let it go. And I'm ready to have the bald face for now. Totally. And it's just like, something about it feels summery, where it's just like, I don't know, like just because hair and like too much hair on my face feels like it just makes me hot. So I love the fresh face. I could put a little vitamin C serum on and be out the door, ready to go.
Okay, and also you're a Leo rising.
Embarrassingly so, yes, Bevin. Yes.
What does that mean for you as a Leo rising?
Oh God, you know what I think it means? The older I get, the more I'm realizing that there is something really interesting about the space of visibility and what it means to be public facing, what it means to, I don't know, almost like kind of give other people permission slips just by living and existing and being, you know? And I think a lot about Whitney Houston as an example. She was a Leo sun, but her ability to just walk into a room with such stature and dignity and elegance and grace and power, but compassion and a gentle strength, that to me feels very Leo. I also think that Leo rising is the value of self-disclosure, the value of vulnerable. This is my interior world that's substantial that you need to hear about. And I just think that like Leo rising is an energy that like brings the sunlight, brings the energy, brings the generative possibility. And yeah, it's fun, but it can be a little exhausting at times for sure.
I've noticed
because my Capricorn moon loves its isolation. So go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, but then it's again your polarity between autonomy and connection, right?
100%.
I've noticed with Leo risings that there's a reluctance for the spotlight, but a willingness to utilize the spotlight for a higher purpose.
Okay, leave it to you to say it in 2 fucking sentences. That was 1 sentence, excuse me. No, 100%, because it was usually projected like, oh, there he goes, that scene stealer. He loves the, but like, I didn't know. It just sort of followed me a little bit, you know? And so, but once I started to understand, you're right, that I could use this for the betterment of others and for the space to have meaningful conversations, I was like, oh, I can leverage this. And honestly, I think Dolly Parton, I know she's not a Leo rising, but I think that she almost has a Leo energy of like, I will use glamour, aesthetics, entertainment, and attention to get your attention, but you can't make me the butt of the joke because I'm in on the joke.
Yeah.
And then because I have you hook, line, and sinker, I'm going to provide something substantial and meaningful to share.
Yeah.
You know, and that feels very Leo. So does the late astrologer Walter Mercado. We don't know his birth time. Do you know Walter Mercado? Did you watch Mucho Mucho Amor?
Mucho Amore. Yes, of course. You know what?
I know.
I watched it because my friend Skip told me that he reminded her of me and my grandmother all at once. And I was like, oh, I'm in. And I watched it with my mom and she's like, yeah, he does remind me of you and grandmother.
Agree, right? Because it's just like entertainment drama, ridiculous, like over the top. But I love that he said, "Listen, I study dance and I use my hands and I give the people the fashion because people love those things. But then once I get them, I'll teach a message of love and peace,
Mm-hmm.
and that feels Leo. And then if we honor that, we can be dignified and exalted in certain areas, and if we don't, it comes out to get us. And I've had those experiences too.
Yeah.
So I got to be careful.
Oh, it's like it's. I love Leos. They're so easy. You know,
Really?
I find them easy because I love to appreciate and admire people and verbally
Oh, they love
so,
that. Yeah.
right? And words of affirmation are my easiest love language to give, and Leos love that. And so, like, it's easy for me to be with Leos, but I can't. I don't know that I could ever date one again, but I had a lot of.
Okay.
I love chatting with a Leo because they'll also go a million places with me.
Yeah. Do you have a Mars, Saturn, Jupiter anywhere in Leo?
Jupiter. My
Oh,
Jupiter.
you have a Jupiter. There we go. Okay, so no wonder you connect well with them because that energy rules wisdom, expansion, and success. So when you're around Leo ruled concepts and figures, you can get there. And I also think of Leo energy as like the sign of like a Britney Spears figure or someone who just like grips the collective psyche, transcends it a little bit, and is the performer, And where would we be without like the energy, the charisma, the dancing, the life force, the vibrancy, the pow, And when I want to connect to Leo, I just watch Britney Spears dance, Whitney Houston sing, and like I'm good to go. I'm like, oh, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but Brittany is a Sagittarius.
She is.
Which is a
She
fire
does
sign.
not.
So is Billie Eilish.
Yes. So fire energy, truth tellers. Go ahead.
I also think Billie Eilish having a Mars in Pisces explained everything for me because if you watch like her documentary and how she connects to her fans without words, like she doesn't need the lyrics for her songs.
No.
She has her feelings and just the tonality and just the eyes. I don't know. There's something very mystical about Billie Eilish and Britney Spears, honestly, about how they connect with their people.
That's right. And like strong fire sign sons. I don't think Brittany had, I think, some fifth house energy. So not Leo particularly, but like she has something in the fifth, I remember. And oh my God, yeah, she is so beloved. And yeah, I think that's big Leo energy too, of like, and they also, what I love about Leos? They typically feel like they don't have something to prove.
Yeah.
And when you have that energy of like, I don't have a shtick, I have nothing to prove, I'm just going to walk in, people love it. The minute others sense that you're trying to prove something and you got a bone to pick, they're like, no, I don't want this. It's so funny. But to me, that's Leo energy. Yeah. And I also thought about Leo energy when, before I transferred from one school to the other in undergrad, I spent about a year and a half working as a fashion model. And I was studying astrology pretty well at the time, like almost all the time. And I will never forget the moment of like when you're the next model up, the producer's holding the headphones and is like, standing by, last model, Colin, okay, and go. And then when they push you out and you make that right hand turn and you see the wall of photographers and the light is on you, that adrenaline quiet hum felt very Leo. Like I'm going to engage in self-definition, movement, energy, like that's when I really knew Leo. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done, but I knew Leo then too.
That's so good. And okay, so you're a conventionally attractive person, right?
I guess so.
I know it's hard to say that when it's yourself, but I will say this as you, and I've noticed so many people who are conventionally attractive, but also aware and critical of like the colonizer in the mind or the patriarchy or whatever, right? And like you wrote this really beautiful reflection of your time as a model.
Thank you for bringing that up.
I loved it. It was so good and so real. And it's like, it's hard to be in an industry that really prioritizes a very specific aesthetic that's ultimately unattainable because everyone's aging or temporarily able-bodied, right? So like there is no beauty ideal that is attainable because it is always lost. It's always a thing that can be lost unless you visualize and understand beauty to be inherent and ever present, and you are the beholder of all beauty, and so you can find beauty in anything, right? So I feel you are a person who understands all of this, but then you're like getting all this value from like these really kind of shallow and weird things that are just all made up, and like that talk about the tangle of those and like kind of divesting from body currency as a person for whom a lot of people place currency.
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Well, it actually started because as I was, it was a year into it. That's when I started my transfer at the new school. I was going to Eugene Lane College New School for Liberal Arts. And it was a professor of mine who said, do you know of Ashley Mears' work called Pricing Beauty? She's done a lot of ethnographic research into being a fashion model because she was a scholar and a fashion model concurrently. And when I read her book and started to understand how specific systems of oppression and advertising and booking agents and consumers dictate what beauty is based on colonial, white supremacist, able-bodied standards of beauty, I was like, I cannot participate in this ethically now. Because like once you see it, you almost can't unsee it. And I knew at the time that something felt sticky about the work, but I was 2021. Like I just dropped out of college. I was like, oh, maybe this could be my golden ticket. Maybe I could pay my student loans back. Like I was in survival mode and like, I'll just take anything to get out of what I'm in now. And so I didn't, but I knew something felt weird that like nobody wanted to hear me speak. Nobody wanted to hear me talk. Nobody wanted to talk to me. And I was like, I don't like this. Like I usually prefer more of like small talk. How are you? Blah, blah, blah. That was not there. And that felt weird. But then I kept having people tell me, isn't this great? Good for you. You got this great opportunity. You know, you're very lucky. And I'm like, but like, this doesn't feel lucky. Not to quote Brittany, but it felt weird, you know? And then it was when I was going to school. Right. I don't like when I'm lonely in my lonely heart. No, but I was like, I don't like this. And then when I started to learn about it through school and I would go from seminar to these experiences, I was like, this is why this feels gross. I do not like this. And then it was actually a Pisces friend of mine who said, Colin, you should not be valued for your face. You need to be valued for your mind. You need to go full force in school because you can't be in two worlds anymore. And that's what I did. Yeah. And I just stopped and stayed in school. I never went to another audition, go see meeting ever again. Yeah, but it was hard. It was really hard. And it's still, and the modeling industry is so different now in 2021 than it was in 2011, 2012. You know, this was pre-Instagram. You know, bookers were telling me bring a skateboard to things to appear more masculine and watch your bounce on your runway walk. Because all I wanted to be was Giselle Bundchen. I just wanted my Giselle moment, you know? And they were like, no, you're too bouncy. You need to walk with more, you know, and it bored me, you know, so it was just, I'm glad I got out and I could totally see its valid criticisms. And actually the Model Alliance is doing great work on that too, of like working and organizing for labor protections for American fashion models to provide pro bono work to get them out of their contracts, to be advocates and provide any level of therapy or justice advocacy if they report sexual abuse or sexual harassment. So it's a really, really wonderful and complicated but adventurous space for me in my life. Yeah. I think you cut out. I can't hear you all of a sudden. No, that's so weird. Hold on. Go ahead. Oh my God, I can't hear you anymore. What is going on? This is so weird. Hold on. What the? Hold on. Can you hear me? Okay, try now. Nothing. Whoa. Hold on a minute. This is so weird. This is so weird. Bevin, do you want to hang up and I'll join the Zoom link right away and we can see if it's a new link? You're going to close this out. I think that's what you said. I'm reading your lips. Okay. Okay. So let me see if I got that right. You're going to close this out and then I'm going to jump back onto the Zoom link and we'll continue in part 2. Got it. Okay. Yes. 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 Okay. So you can find me if I'm hearing this correctly. Okay, we're playing mind reading. Well, Bevin, now we know we could like non-verbally talk shit if we ever needed to. So you can find me at Queer Cosmos. You can schedule a reading with me in spring, summer 2021. And that's my Instagram handle. My website is queercosmos.com. I have a couple of books out if you want to support that because I have a lot of student loans to pay back. Police. And thank you so much for listening to this conversation. And Bevin, thank you so much for having me. So weird. Yay! Free Britney! I'll see you in the Zoom link.